Yo, what's up?
What's up? Are we live?
We're live, internationally live.
The High Five podcast is back. Apologies to our listeners for the short break. We've had some movement on the High Five team. Ryan is now in a different, hopefully safer spot in Williamsburg, away from all those mean muggers. And Josh is a little world traveler. Josh, where are you calling in from today?
Sao Paulo, Brazil. Southern Hemisphere, baby.
Nice. What are you doing down there?
I'm here to watch my Philadelphia Eagles take on the Green Bay Packers in the first ever NFL game in South America.
Really?
Live from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Yeah.
Wow.
Arena Corinthians, which is my South American soccer team as well.
Are there a lot of Eagles fans in Sao Paulo?
There will be. There definitely will be. Actually, I used to live here. A little fun fact for y'all, for 5 years. And so I watched a lot of NFL games at this one particular Irish pub in Sao Paulo. And they once broadcast an Eagles-Packers playoff game. And I went into the bar and almost the entire bar was rooting for the Packers. I think it's just because of the colors. So Green Bay's colors are similar to like the Brazilian flag, because none of those fuckers have ever been to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and probably could never find it on a map. So yeah, it was unfortunate we lost that game. I don't think that's going to happen again Friday.
You thinking there's going to be a big victory for the Birds?
I don't know about big victory, but I think we eke one out. I mean, a lot of variables here. It's on a Friday night, which is kind of weird. The team doesn't arrive until like Wednesday or Thursday, I think. So their timing could be off, but it's the first game of the season, which is always a little bit of a wild card.
Oh, the regular season opener is in Brazil?
For us. So the regular season opens on Thursday night, Chiefs and Ravens, but
okay.
the opener for the Eagles and the Packers is Friday night.
Wow.
NFL's going global. But you're speaking Portuguese reminds me of something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, because I live in a very Portuguese heavy neighborhood in Boston, and this is my fast five, which is a fast one, which is top languages that sound like drunken other languages, and that's number one. Portuguese just sounds like drunken Spanish to me, because I know Spanish pretty well, but anytime I hear Portuguese, I think someone from Portugal must have traveled to Spain, learned Spanish, come back, and they were like, "Hey, well, what's going on over in Spain? What language do they speak?" And he just had to teach them Spanish from memory, and that's what Portuguese sounds like to me. So that's our fast five for the episode.
I didn't know we were a history podcast, but okay.
Yeah, I can't. All I know is they share the Romance background. They're Latin based.
Yeah, it is Portuguese is very similar to Spanish.
Yeah.
I thought my theory was that way back some Portuguese king or lord had some kind of like speech impediment and people were making fun of him. And he's like, no, this is just a different language. I'm not trying to speak Spanish. This is Portuguese.
So I do.
Yeah.
I did hear this when I was young, and this is unverified, but that the Spanish feta, like you know how they use that was because of a king. That
I've heard that too.
It was a king had a lisp, and so everybody had to talk like that, so that they wouldn't make fun of him. And
I'll verify that.
yeah, you can confirm.
Yeah, if only we had our fact checker on.
Position.
We're still looking for a fact checker, by the way. The High Five Podcast 55@gmail.com. Send in your applications. We did have our very first attempt at a fact check, though, coming from one of our listeners, Jolo, who let us know that banana ketchup actually comes from the Philippines, not the Caribbean, even though it is widely used in the Caribbean. Banana ketchup actually comes from the Philippines. So thanks to our listener, Jolo, for the fact check on that one. Are you guys ready for the main event, the main topic?
Yeah, it's been cooking for weeks.
Been ready for weeks, I feel like. Yeah.
So we're diving into a pretty enigmatic topic this week, one that could go in a lot of different ways. and that is top 5 codes. Brian, as a coder, a codigo, you might say, do you feel like you have an advantage going into this one?
Yeah, obviously, but that's every week.
All right, we'll see how it plays out. Let's get into the criteria. Brian, what were your criteria for top 5 codes?
So, per usual, I took a pretty broad definition of codes, and it helps that this one is also pretty generic. But I went with things that are codes in the sense of like just characters strung together that mean something. And then also, like if there's a classification layer to it, that makes it an interesting code. So like if these characters mean, like they're a way to classify people, places, things, that made them that put them on my list as well.
So characters strung together and it's a classifier.
Like how they're used, yeah. Because there's like, I mean, you could make a code out of anything, but then like what does it mean and how does you use it? Like does the government use it? Do scientists use it? So the way that it was used, I think helped bump it up on my list. And then in some cases it was like, you know, what is it? Like hidden messages. So like creating codes to communicate secretly.
Gotcha. Okay, so something that's more of like a concept type of code, like Omerta, probably wouldn't make it on your list.
Probably because I don't know what that is, but yeah, I don't think that
I was waiting for him to say, no, that's actually my number one code.
Josh, how about you? What were your criteria for top 5 codes?
Yeah, I didn't have many criteria. Mainly, I was just looking for utility in code. So I wanted all of my codes, but broadly defining, I think I've got a pretty diverse list here. But I was looking for the utility, usefulness.
Okay. Utility meaning usefulness, not necessarily widely used.
No, being like, how useful is this code? Like, what does it unlock?
Yeah.
Okay. Unlockability.
Yeah, like ROI of using the code.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, before
I've got a bunch of honorable mentions just for the record when we get there. There were a lot of candidates from my list, but obviously only 5 made it on.
I've got a dishonorable mention.
Yeah.
Oh,
first in top 5 history.
That is a first. We're groundbreakers here on the High Five podcast. Okay. Now for the coin toss. This coin toss is brought to you by Codenames. If you never heard of Codenames, you must have incredibly interesting friends where the conversation at a house party never dies down. Codenames is great for any place where you have a tabletop and a desire to insult the intelligence of your significant other. Now for a limited time, get 5% off of Codenames by going to codenames.com/high5. That's codenames.com/high5. All right. I don't remember who the reigning champion is. Do you guys recall who's got the coin toss call this week?
I think that's me, the longest reigning champion in High Five podcast history. It's been like a month since I've been defeated.
Latin American version. So that means it's like by definition not as good as the American winner last time.
Well, fun fact, coins flip the opposite direction in the Southern Hemisphere.
All right, Josh. You want heads or tails?
So dumb.
Cabeza, baby. Cabeza.
Oh, I dropped it. It's heads. Do you want to go first or do you want to defer?
I'm going to go ahead and defer and let Brian go first.
All right, Brian.
All right.
Top 5 codes, number 5.
Okay. So my first code is blood type codes. So that's what I meant by like the utility behind the code. So in blood types, like whether you're like O positive or whatever, like any of the blood types, it means like a presence of antibodies or absence. So we're all sort of classified by these blood type codes. And they say like people who are O negative or universal donors, stuff like that. So that all humanity can be broken down into these set of like blood type codes, and those things can all mean something, especially with something that is coursing through all of our veins. I thought that was an interesting use of classification and coding for humanity.
I never thought of blood types as codes.
I mean, but it's like the most important thing, right? It's like when you have blood transfusions, organ transplants, that's like the most basic match that you have to make. And at the most like basic level, that's where you start from classifying people.
Interesting.
Do you know your blood types?
Yeah.
You too?
I'm O negative.
No. I have no clue what my blood type is.
I only know because I'm a universal donor. So it's like whenever people need blood, I know I could help, but like I don't, even though I could. It's a lot of power. I wield it
That's like
responsibly.
the skeleton key of blood types, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know your blood type, Josh?
No, I did at one point. I don't. It's not O negative. It's not the universal one. I think it's like one of the more common ones, though.
There was also some, and I don't know how verified this is, but when people were speculating about COVID, that certain blood types weren't getting hit as hard. So there are a lot of interesting conspiracies about what your blood type means.
Save that for our top 5 conspiracy
What it could
podcast. Okay, Josh, you're number 5.
All right, my number 5 is cheat codes,
Oh,
like in video games, and I'm specifically thinking of probably the most famous cheat code of all time from the game Contra that would unlock like tons of extra lives, up, down, left, right, BA, start. Cheat codes. I mean, they just make video games much more easy. They make, like taking tests way easier. Big unlock if you get a cheat code.
I'm trying to think of the cheat codes that I used in video games as a kid.
I used so many.
Mostly I'm thinking of StarCraft.
Oh, I didn't know.
I played a lot of StarCraft. Yeah, there was one I think it was Show Me the Money would give you a bunch of minerals that you could then use to build up your army.
I used a lot of cheat codes. I thought where you were going with this, Josh, was Mortal Kombat, because you could do a lot. Like the annihilations, the fatalities were like cheat codes basically, just like left, down, right, up, kind of shit. And then they would do like friendship. And
there was yeah.
Friendship.
The Sims had a lot of really good cheat codes. I used to do like infinite money glitches in The Sims. Kaplausis was what you would enter. Kaplausis. And then you would just get 1 million simoleons, the currency of SimWorld.
I've talked about my passion for the video game NBA Jam on this podcast before, and there were some versions of NBA Jam where you could unlock certain players by entering in codes as well.
Cheat codes is a good one.
Did you ever have a Game Shark?
No.
Oh, dude, Game Shark on N64. You would get a Game Shark, and you would sit the cartridge on the Game Shark, and then put that in the N64. And then it would unlock all the cheat codes for all the games that were on the Game Shark.
Nice.
That's a good one, cheat codes.
All right, Brian, number 4 for you.
Okay. This one, it's a little bit different type of code. And so this one is called the Jefferson Wheel Cipher. This was a code used by Thomas Jefferson that he learned while he was an ambassador to France. He was inspired to create it while he was an ambassador to France. And so the background is that during the American Revolution, the founding fathers would communicate using ciphers in case anything was discovered by the enemies. They couldn't read it. And so this cipher was like, it was like a rolling pin covered in letters, and it had 36 discs that you would move. So it's like, like yeah, just like a wheel of letters, and then they're all kind of like jumbled up, and then you would like pick like a sequence, and so you would write something normally, and then you would like roll the pin over it, and then when it would like decipher it, it was nonsense unless it was like perfectly moved to the right place, all the discs. So it's like that was the code that you needed to know what order do all the letters go, kind of like a lock. And then if it's not right, the message won't make sense. But if it is, then when you like unroll it, you can see what the message was.
That's pretty cool.
The
So it's like an early form of encryption.
Yeah.
So Jefferson invented that, and then all of the founding fathers or like the revolutionaries used it to pass messages.
I think so, yeah.
I like it. No wonder we won the war.
He would say he would also send it to when they were out, when William Lewis and Clark were exploring the Louisiana Purchase. He would send messages to them using the cipher.
He was afraid of the Native Americans getting a hold of his messages.
TJ, maybe, yeah.
Or the French. The French were out there. Josh.
Yeah, I have a cipher-related honorable mention. Just a little spoiler there for you. But my number
teaser.
4, teaser, excuse me. I knew it ended in ER. My number 4 is pretty esoteric here. I'm gonna get. I don't know if either of you have seen the movie Spaceballs, a Mel Brooks movie, a parody of like
A classic.
Star Wars. Pretty
A long time ago.
amazing movie. Bill Pullman, Rick Moranis, John Candy. But there's a specific scene where they are holding, like the Darth Vader character, played by Rick Moranis, is holding the Druish princess hostage so that he can gain access to this oxygen dome around the planet that her father is the king of. And it's called Perry Air. It's like high-end luxury air. And they're trying to get the code so that they can steal all of the air. And the code is just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so then they suck out all of the air from this planet. But then, like the Lone Star, kind of like the Luke Skywalker figure, figures out a way to switch. And they scream, "No, it's gone from suck to blow." Great scene.
Okay, so the number 4 is the Perrier code.
The Perrier oxygen dome code from Spaceballs. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything to add. Brian, it's you.
You want to take it back?
Yeah. So my number 3 is back in the theme of utility. Your social security number is a type of code that obviously we use every day and that you're assigned at birth in the US, or when you're a naturalized citizen, you get one. But it's obviously a very important number, but it's also kind of like hilariously easy to get from people. You're just like, you're entered this all over the place. I think there was something recently that all of our social security numbers were leaked online by hackers. There was, I think it was the CEO of one of the big big credit check companies like TransUnion, Equifax, that he posted his social security number on the side of a truck to prove how, like, it was a stunt. And it was a marketing stunt to prove how safe that company was with your data. And then I think he had to try to file for a new number because he was they tried to steal his identity so many times and they just couldn't stop it. But it's just these four random digits that I mean, your full number is longer than that, but you're always telling people like, what are the last four digits of your social? And that's a code that we use to organize the entire population of the country, and that there's just like a giant Excel spreadsheet that the FBI is like looking through, and they're like, we're getting that guy. So social security number is very important, very easily hackable type of societal code.
That's a good one. I've always wondered if there's any meaning to the way they separate the 3, then 2, then 4 digits. If the 3 means something, if the 2 means something, the 4 means something. I have no idea. But yeah, that's used in the US all the time.
And then,
for
I mean,
everything.
and other countries have their own version of them. But since this is America, except for Josh right
Yeah,
now.
there's one down here in Brazil that like you give pretty freely. Like you can't steal somebody's identity as easily, but you need it for basically everything, like to sign up for like a phone line. You need it to get like a Metro card. It's called a CPF number. And you don't have to be a citizen to get one, though. That's one of the differences.
Oh,
But yeah, Social Security is a good one. I have no idea what those numbers mean, the 3, 2, and 4. But if we had a fact checker, so if you were looking for a
Jolo.
fall job, Jolo, if you're listening, I know you are a longtime listener, never time caller, but you could be part of the show by working for tips and being our fact checker. And I will say, I've been data shamed, I feel like a lot of times, like when I connect now to like a public Wi-Fi, people are like, oh, you don't care at all about your personal data? And I'm like, everybody already has all of my fucking data already.
Yeah, that's fair.
it is very easy.
I also feel like the Social Security number has kind of outkicked its coverage, so to speak, because it's used for much more than just the Social Security tax and tracking how much Social Security you're going to get paid when you retire. Now it's just kind of used for everything. So that kind of plays into the utility criteria that you guys were talking about. It's been used a lot more widely than just, I think, its original function. Speaking of utility, I gotta say, I'm just doing a quick audit of the list that we've heard so far. Perrier oxygen code, low ROI, low utility, I would say.
Well, not in the world of Spaceballs. I mean, all of that oxygen allowed them to breathe. Like, is there really something more valuable than air, fresh air? I don't know.
Okay, that's a fair point. All right, number 3 for you, Josh.
So my number 3 is the Rosetta Stone, which I consider kind of like a code, or the breaking of a code at least. Giant slab of rock found, I think, like 300 years ago. And it had the same thing essentially printed in 3 different languages, which allowed us to better understand Egyptian hieroglyphics, because one of the other languages was ancient Greek, which people already understood. So we were able to then start learning what some of the hieroglyphics meant and learn a lot more about what was going on in ancient Egypt. So my number 3 is the Rosetta Stone.
I've actually seen the Rosetta Stone. It's in the British Museum in London. And yeah, I think one of the languages was like ancient Syrian or Babylonian or something like that. And I gotta call foul on this one, because that's a key more than a code.
Whoa, real-time fact check.
Yeah.
I mean, when you type in a code on a smart lock, is that not also like a key, but it's also a code? I think, it's a hazy line between key and code.
Okay, we'll consider it. We'll let it play for now.
Interesting. Where,
Brian,
what British museum is it in?
It's called the British Museum.
The one, Brian. The.
Yeah, the.
That's it. And they stole it from, who did they steal it from?
Probably the Romans. I don't know.
I always just thought this was the software that they sell, Rosetta Stone, to learn stuff. Okay, my number two is important for me specifically, but also for the rest of the world. Binary code. And so binary code is the most basic encoding format for everything, like digital. And so it's just zeros and ones, and where all data gets compressed and passed into like electrical boards that power computers. And so there's something really interesting about just how you can compress so much information into a sequence of zeros and ones and communicate, like, so like barcodes on a when you scan something is just binary code. They just like make it longer so that it's easy to scan. But the fact that our messages right now are being transported over the internet as binary code means that there's a lot of utility behind them, and they're just for computers, for superior intelligent machines to read. So binary codes.
Yeah, that's incredibly useful. You're saying all data eventually goes down to zeros and ones?
Like it can be encoded into zeros and ones, yeah, and then everything that's getting transported over the internet, for example, gets broken down into these like data packets that at their core are zeros and ones. But there are
Yeah.
So
tools online that you could write stuff and just like turn it into binary if you want. For no, like it
Do you
wouldn't be that useful.
do you have an idea of how many zeros and ones we're talking about? Like how many digits there would be for a text message, for example, or like in any way for our listeners to conceptualize the amount of zeros and ones?
Watch The Matrix, and when they're like, it's like on the screen, it's like that.
Speaking of The Matrix, they are for the 25th anniversary re-releasing it in theaters.
Yeah,
Yeah, later this year. So be on the lookout for that. I'm definitely gonna go check
yeah,
out some binary.
yeah. If you just could see binary.
are they one of the sponsors of this podcast now? Or are we giving them free
The Matrix,
advertising? The Matrix, yeah.
only
Yeah,
one,
definitely. Yeah.
not two through four.
Well, yeah, true. Well, at the risk of you getting canceled, Brian, so I just take this as like you hate when people say they're non-binary. You're like everything's binary.
It's like, no, that's physically impossible. Yeah, yeah, it's a big trigger of mine.
The Matrix
Pet
4
peeve.
was good. Just like the Matrix 1.
Yeah, half of it is just a replay of Matrix One.
Josh, number 2 for you.
Yeah, this one is a little bit similar to Brian's blood type, but I think a little goes a little broader, and that is the genetic code. Thinking
Oh,
of DNA. So, this has taught us so much about why we are the way we are. And it is potentially going to unlock tons of customized humans in the future. I read a book called The Code Breaker about like CRISPR technology. You know what this is?
yeah.
They can go in and like
Yeah.
edit genes. Yeah. So you can have like designer babies. And I can, still dream of having an NBA career by editing my own DNA and maybe turning myself into like a 6'6", high jumping. I want to keep my current jump shot though. So don't edit whatever gene is responsible for my jump shot. We got to keep that one the same. But yeah, the genetic code has just like changed so much. Understanding that better, like crime investigations. Think about that. 23andMe shit, like finding out where you're from and who you're related to.
It's a pretty big one. Yeah, that's a very basic code.
Minority Report shit. Pre-crime investigation unit.
Precogs.
Precogs, yeah.
Josh, if you're designing a baby, what are you picking?
Ooh, good question. I haven't thought much about it. I've thought much about like who I would want to mate with to make a baby that would be to my liking. But really, I'm thinking like supreme musical talent and supreme athletic ability.
Like Shaq.
But Is maybe a little bit more musical ability.
Dude, Shaq's DJ skills are off the charts,
That is
and
true. As a DJ, Shaq is very good.
he's incredible genie. I don't know if you would want to optimize for genie genes, but he's got them.
Shazam.
Okay, let me recap the list here before we get into our number ones. All right. On Brian's side, we have number 5, blood type codes. Then the Jefferson wheel cipher, social security numbers, binary code. And for Josh, we have cheat codes, Perrier oxygen dome code, Rosetta Stone, more of a key than a code, and genetic code. All right, now for the number 1 top codes. Brian, you're number 1.
Okay, this one's another encryption communication type of code, and this one goes way back. This one's called the Cytail, and this was used by Spartans to send messages, usually shorter messages, over long distances, and it would involve similarly like a wooden rod that the key to the code was the circumference of like the rod. And so if you didn't have the right size rod, you couldn't decrypt the message. So like once you have the same rod, you know what it is. But so they would make this custom rod. They would strap a leather, like some leather around it, and then that would be the message that goes out. But then only like the person receiving the message would have the right one. And so yeah, this was used in the 1st century, and it was like these wooden pieces. So it's similar to the Jefferson one, probably a V1 of the Jefferson wheel cipher.
I'm wondering now if that has anything to do with passing of the baton in the Olympics. I was wondering why we're still passing batons in these races, and if you guys watch the USA men's team in their relay, how they fumbled the baton pass and totally blew I think it was the 4x400.
I think it was 4x1.
The 4x1. And I was just wondering, why are we still doing baton passes like that? Like, it seems so outdated, but I wonder if this is the origin of it.
They should do it like laser tag, where you just like run and you tag like a light on their back, and then they go. Too easy, maybe.
How do you spell Cytail?
SCYTALE.
Okay. Interesting. That one I've never heard of.
Same. Until
never heard of that one. I at first thought Brian was saying side tail. And I was like, oh, that's frisky. That's bold to admit on a podcast that your significant other might be listening to. And then the other thing that kept running through my head is, for no good reason, is that Brian's alias, and we should do a future top 5 aliases podcast, should be Rod Binary. That would be a good alias.
That would be good.
I like that. That's got
all right, Josh.
A Carlos Danger.
Ron Mexico.
Yeah. Ron Mexico.
My number 1 top code is, and this might delve into Brian's dishonorable mention territory on the flip side here, is a casual dress code. I hate a formal dress code. So I was recently, before I was in Sao Paulo, a little humble brag, I was in Dublin, Ireland, and I tried to get into a freaking Irish pub, and they wouldn't let me in sweatpants. And I'm like, bro, this is a pub and it's post-pandemic. Sweatpants should be allowed anywhere. And even like going way back, there used to be dress codes trying to get into establishments where you needed like fancy shoes and you couldn't wear jeans for whatever reason. I remember one of my former bosses on Casual Friday wouldn't let me wear sweatpants. So I want to just give a huge shout out and applause to casual dress codes. I'm fine with no shoes, no shirts, no service, Like that's no shoes, no shirt. That's a little bit extreme, but that's about as much as I'm willing to tolerate coming out of 2 years where everybody was just rocking sweat stuff all the time. But on the beach, I feel like you should be able to get service if you have no shirt and no shoes. But off the beach, maybe not.
What was the dress code?
What was the dress code? Where?
Just no sweatpants at this bar.
I don't know if there were other things that were not allowed, and they called them joggers also. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? They're called sweatpants.
I'm a big fan of the casual dress code. I did no dress code for my wedding, and it really threw a few people off. So you're welcome, Josh, for the no dress code at the wedding. But some people really couldn't figure out the no dress code. They just kept texting me like, but what should I wear? Some people just want to be told.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely a big fan.
Some people don't want to be underdressed.
Yeah. It really doesn't bother me.
That's the nightmare scenario.
Underdress, over deliver, baby. That's my philosophy.
Okay.
Set expectations low.
Exactly. Low rod, if you will.
Let's jump into the honorable mentions. You guys said you had a lot, so Josh, since you just wrapped it up, why don't you take it away with your honorable mentions?
All right, I'm just gonna read through them quickly here. The bro code, the Turing code breaking, so similar to the one that the Jefferson one that Brian was talking about, where we broke the Nazi code. Basically, and similar to his binary, like the introduction of modern computing. Morse code, Morse code, like do, and then also moral code, or like codes of conduct. Pin codes, which Brett would probably say is a key, actually, even though it's called a pin code. Python, the coding language. HTML also gives us the internet. Code words I had on there. And then Cody Rhodes, a.k.a. Gold Dust, for those of you who are wrestling fans.
Nice. That's a good list.
Gold Dust Jr.
Brian, how about your honorable mentions? And then let's finish it off with the one dishonorable, the first of all time dishonorable mention.
Yeah. So honorable mentions. I also had genetic code for the same reason. CRISPR. If you want to hear some crazy shit about genetic codes, research that Chinese doctor who made CRISPR babies. I think they arrested him for some violation of ethical code. That's a twofer.
Oh.
Zip codes.
A little BOGO. Are acronyms codes? I think they kind of are, right?
Technically, I think so. Zip codes. A lot of utility behind those.
Yeah, postal codes more generally.
Yeah, postal codes. But this is American podcast, so we're going with zip codes. Josh
probably calls them joggers.
Yeah. This one I think is whenever you're fiddling with technology, you always get an error code, a useful error code, and that's actually a really important part of programming, is sending people useful error codes. So, for example, my desk, I have a electric standing desk, and whenever it resets, it gives you an error code that's very easy to look up, so that you know how to reset it. Or yesterday, my thermostat went out. I have a Nest now, and that was giving me an error code. So a lot of utility behind those. Braille, very important set of codes for people who can't see this podcast. And my dishonorable mention is an evil use of codes. This is like if Darth Vader designed these codes, and these are medical billing codes. And so these are how different procedures are classified in a medical context. And there's a lot of like insurance companies do a lot of work to hide like the real cost behind some of this stuff. And so like people send around billing codes and then medical for different procedures, and then sometimes like the stuff is coded wrong, so your insurance company won't cover it. and there's a lot of confusion around them, but a lot of it is intentional to get you to pay the most for your procedure. So that's a nefarious use of codes. Insurance companies, if you're listening, Aetna, Cigna, fuck you.
Yeah, I could add on to the
Blue Cross Blue Shield. All of you can get it. Fuck you.
I could add on to the evil or like annoying use of codes. The two-factor code. I'm so sick of those.
Yeah, dude, we're moving to 12
two-factor
factor
authentication.
What was that, Josh?
Yeah, the two factors that go to two-factor authentication. I said doing a little authentication.
Yeah, super annoying. I don't have anything that's that important, that's that valuable, you know? So just let me log in.
You know what really scares me is that I want to move back to Philadelphia and change my area code back to 215, and I feel like I won't be able to get into anything if I change my phone number now because of two-factor.
Oh, yeah. I thought
area codes are good.
Yeah. I just heard that New Hampshire is adding a new area code.
Whoa.
I don't know if we can spare an extra area code for New Hampshire.
A lot of people are upset about it.
They need more than one.
Dude, some people are ride or die for the 603.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for top 5 codes. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Wait, who won?
Oh, okay. I'll cut that part. I'll cut that part out.
Wow.
We'll fix that in post.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I'm going Brian on this one because Josh, number one, has been traveling a lot and prevented us from recording. So just a little side annoyance there. And also, I think the Rosetta Stone is not a code. The Rosetta Stone is a key. And the Perrier Oxygen Dome code, there's no usefulness to that outside of this this fake cinematic universe, this fictional area. Although I really did enjoy the story and the recounting of the code. I think and then casual dress code, pretty soft. Not a lot of utility there because there's only like a few places that you can apply that to. Most places now don't even have dress codes. So I'm going Brian on this one. Great use of history. Also very fundamental. He got really fundamental with his code. So things that are, building blocks of our life and our society. You could have done genetic code, Brian, but you did mention it as an honorable mention. So the winner's rant goes out to Brian this week. Brian?
Thanks. Yeah, I thought my codes were solid as well. My winner's rant this week is about my stand-up comedy show tonight at Broadway Comedy Club. I'm going to be doing 5 minutes tonight it's my second stand-up show ever. So if you're in New York and you happen to hear this today, you should come to Broadway Comedy Club. But if not, you should catch me at another club next time.
Nice. Yeah, good luck, Brian.
Thanks.
Excited to see the recording, if you are recording it.
Yeah, there'll be a recording. I'll share it with anybody who writes in to the High Five podcast if you want a sneak peek at my set.
That's the High Five Podcast 55@gmail.com. Still taking applications for fact checkers and now for people who want to hear Brian's Type 5.